AMD. Here's the deal. Okay, obviously, the big deal came out here today in regards to OpenAI. Now, a lot of people don't understand what's actually going on here, what it means for AMD's financial future, what it means for AMD's position in the market, and what it means for AMD's stock price moving forward. I need to break this all down as simple as possible, right? AMD and OpenAI today announced 6 gigawatt agreement to power OpenAI's next generation of AI infrastructure across multiple generations. That's the first key there, across multiple generations of AMD Instinct GPUs. This is not just some one-off deal. We're talking about this is going to be over multiple generations of AMD chips in the future here. The first 1 gigawatt deployment of AMD Instinct MI450 GPUs is set to begin in the second half of 2026. Now, what have I told you guys in regards to 350 series and above? The 350 series, like that was a huge step where AMD's finally like, oh, they're starting to like really position themselves to get into this fight with NVIDIA and actually be a serious competitor. The 450 series is like, we're here. We're ready to take you head on, right? And so it's a massive moment for AMD, and it's a massive moment, honestly, for the whole chip space, because if you look, NVIDIA's had no competitors for the last several years, right? It's if you want these super high-end GPUs, you have one company to go to, and that was NVIDIA. That has now all changed, folks. And this has changed everything forever for the future of both these companies, right? AMD's strong leadership in high-performance computing and OpenAI's pioneering research in advancements in generative AI places the two companies at the forefront of this important and pivotal time for AI. Under this definitive agreement, OpenAI will work with AMD as a core strategic compute partner to drive large-scale deployments of AMD technology, starting with the AMD Instinct MI450 series and rack-scale AI solutions. That was a big acquisition they did about a year, in the past year or two, that's really positioned themselves for this 2026 and beyond future, right? Like you've had all the breadcrumbs to put all this story together for a while, right? And the stories come together. And extending to future generations. By sharing technical expertise to optimize their product roadmap, AMD and OpenAI are deepening their multi-generational hardware and software collaboration that will begin that began with the MI300X and continue with the MI350X series. The MI350 is the one that just scaled like in the past couple months here. We can say the past 2 or 3 months that you're going to actually start to see in this upcoming quarter's numbers, and you'll see that in the guidance as well. Okay, so do keep in mind like AMD's numbers in the very short term, as in this quarter they're about to report next, and then the next few quarters are still going to be really exciting growth rates. But like I told you guys a million times, we knocked the doors off in 2026 when the 400 series hits. This partnership creates a true win-win for both companies, enabling very large-scale AI deployments and advancing the entire ecosystem. As part of the agreement to further align strategic interest, now this is where it starts to matter significantly. Like this is why it matters so much for the financials of AMD, okay, and the positioning of AMD. But this next part is what matters so much for the stock price. Okay, listen to this. AMD has issued OpenAI a warrant for up to 160 million shares of AMD stock, structured to vest as strategic milestones are achieved. The first tranche vests with the initial 1 gigawatt deployment, with additional tranches vesting as purchases scale up to 6 gigawatts. Vesting is further tied to AMD achieving certain share price targets and OpenAI achieving the technical and commercial milestones required to enable AMD's deployments at scale. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, okay? How do I break this down as simple as possible, okay? Okay, the first thing I would say is now OpenAI is extremely incentivized to buy as many AMD chips over the next several years as possible. Because if AMD's stock price goes to certain levels, then OpenAI is going to basically unlock massive quantities of AMD shares that then they can hold those shares or they can sell them off over time, whatever they want to do, right? So it is definitely in the best interest for OpenAI that AMD stock price goes up significantly over the next few years. Now, additionally, if you believe OpenAI is really the next, trillion-dollar or multi-trillion-dollar company, right, then they should be able to continue to raise capital for years and years to go in the future. which then would mean all the shares they get from AMD, if AMD hits certain stock prices, right? OpenAI would then be in a position where they could be easily a long-term investor in AMD. And it's not like they're going to get these shares and just sell them off right away. Now, if OpenAI is in a tough financial situation at that particular time, there's a possibility they could get shares, right, and then sell them right off. But I would say if OpenAI is investing aggressively in these AMD chips, right, then that means AMD stock price is probably doing tremendous, which means the whole AI movement is still doing phenomenal at that time. So I don't think OpenAI would be in a situation where they'd like to just ditch those shares anytime soon, right? So this is a deal that's structured very differently than the NVIDIA deal, where NVIDIA was more of an investment in, right? This is more like OpenAI wants AMD stock to do very well over the next few years. So if anything, OpenAI is going to want to buy as many chips as possible from AMD, right? So then AMD's numbers are as high as possible. And this unlocks, obviously massive financial ownership and financial win for OpenAI. Where then you could say, let's say OpenAI spends tens of billions of dollars, which is very doable, just them. It's very possible OpenAI spends tens of billions of dollars with AMD over the next 4, 5, 6 years, right? It's very possible. If AMD stock price explodes over the next few years, OpenAI could end up getting back a lot of that, because AMD's stock price and market cap would go up so much. So it's actually kind of brilliant. I gotta say, it's brilliant from both sides. Like, both sides, huge W here. Like, there's no one takes an L here. AMD, this is genius on their part. Like, OpenAI is the company that's gonna spend the most likely on these chips for the next, at least 5 years, right? Who knows, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. But at least the next 5 years, we know OpenAI is gonna spend likely the most money of everybody, right? And they got that Microsoft backing. So you want to be in with those guys. And so the fact that now OpenAI has a financial interest, a significant financial interest at that, with AMD, listen, if you want to know where AMD stock could go, I think OpenAI would love it if AMD stock was a $500 stock or a $1,000 stock a few years from now. Would they not? How do they get there? Explode AMD's revenues, right? Now remember, OpenAI is just one customer of AMD. And that's going to get into a bigger part that we'll speak about in just a moment. But this is significant. Also remember this. Might even be... No, I'll cover that in just a moment, because I don't want to get too off subject. Well, it's all on the same subject, but it's a little unrelated. I want to finish going through this. Then I'll get to the next major point here, okay? We are thrilled to partner with OpenAI to deliver AI compute at massive scale, says Lisa Su, the CEO of AMD. This partnership brings the best of AMD and OpenAI together to create a true win-win, enabling the world's most ambitious AI build-out and advancing the entire AI ecosystem. This partnership is a major step in building the compute capacity needed to realize AMD's full potential, says Sam Altman, the big dog at OpenAI. AMD's leadership in high-performance chips will enable us to accelerate progress and bring the benefits of advanced AI to everyone faster. Building the future of AI requires deep collaboration across every layer of the stack, says one of the other co-founders of OpenAI. Working alongside AMD will allow us to scale and deliver AI tools that benefit people everywhere. Our partnership with OpenAI is expected to deliver tens of billions of dollars in revenue for AMD while accelerating OpenAI's AI infrastructure build-out, says the executive vice president and CFO and treasurer of AMD. Holy smokes, I got a lot of roles there, right? This agreement creates significant strategic alignment and shareholder value for both AMD and OpenAI, and is expected to be highly accretive to AMD's non-GAAP earnings per share. Do you think? Yeah, I think so. Through this partnership, AMD and OpenAI are building the infrastructure to meet the world's growing AI demands by combining world-class innovation and execution to accelerate the future of high performance in AI computing. Listen, folks, okay, this sentence is huge right here. Huge. Our partnership with OpenAI is expected to deliver tens of billions of dollars in revenue for AMD. That's one customer. We're not talking about all the money Meta is going to spend over the next few years with AMD. We're not talking about all the money Google's going to spend over the next few years with AMD. We're not talking about all the money Microsoft's going to spend with AMD over the next few years, and Amazon, and Tesla, and go down the whole list. We're talking about tens of billions of dollars just from OpenAI over the next few years. Now, the big question is, What is tens of billions of dollars? Tens of billions of dollars is 20 billion. Tens of billions of dollars is also 90 billion. So the moral of this story is just based upon what OpenAI will spend over the next few years with AMD, right? AMD's growth rates are going to skyrocket. Now, the next point I need to make here that everybody has to understand on a high level, because this is very important. Who is the leader in AI? Everybody would view OpenAI as a leader of AI, right? There's a lot of companies playing in AI. A lot of people have products and services out there. A lot of people want to do big stuff. But at the end of the day, it all comes back to OpenAI, right? They're the leaders. They got ChatGPT. They're the ones that are the most famous. They're the ones that look like they're making the most money, obviously outside of NVIDIA, right, from all this stuff. So here's the deal. Since they're the leader, and now they say, AMD, we need their chips. They're at such a high level. We need AMD. We need as much AMD as... That's a huge signal for the entire industry. If AMD's chips are good enough for OpenAI to go all in, why are you not going to do it? If the kings of AI are willing to go all in AMD chips, why wouldn't you? So then you get all the players underneath OpenAI, all the smaller players, right, to all say, looks like AMD's got something here, right? Now, additionally, when I say we've had all the breadcrumbs, like all the breadcrumbs have been there, right? Another point I've made is when AMD puts on these big events, right, and they show off their new chipsets, what happens? Well, all these big tech CEOs end up going to the event. They all do presentations and things like that. Why would they do that? Unless AMD was the real deal Holyfield and they've got an exciting product roadmap and they're going to have massive successes in the market. They wouldn't do that. Like, these executives of these big tech companies are kind of busy. Like, they wouldn't just go out of their way to go do a presentation at AMD's conference, right? Unless AMD's a very, very powerful company for these big tech companies in the future, right? Something to keep in mind there. So this is a massive, massive deal, right? Now, additionally, I posted this inside the private stock group. I said, one of the biggest points I made for AMD this year is big tech wants and needs AMDs to win. Why? NVIDIA has way too much pricing power. They have grown too powerful. This power position leads NVIDIA to basically charge any price and big tech will go along with it. And that's exactly what they've been able to do, right? They've been able to charge, they're like, hey, you want our best chip? $35,000. Get it out your pocket. And they're like, okay, like we got no other option. You want the best of the best, you have one company to go to, and that's NVIDIA, and that's it. It stops and ends there, right? Until now. Not anymore. Finally, big tech has someone to put a lid on the pricing power, and that is AMD. Meta, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, Tesla, etc. all want AMD to be very successful in the next few years, right? And that's a point I've been making here on the Reaction channel. We'll adjust numbers in just a moment here. On the main channel in regards to AMD, no one wants just NVIDIA to have won this market for the next 10 years. No way. There's too much pricing power. NVIDIA's margins have grown to astronomical levels. All these big tech companies, NVIDIA's a public company. Everybody can see their numbers. Everybody sees the margins NVIDIA's making, which is ridiculous. Everybody sees the net margins. And as I've also said, NVIDIA is whose best friend? NVIDIA is AMD's best friend. And people are like, wait, how? They're competitors and AMD wants to come eat NVIDIA's lunch over the next few years, blah, blah, blah. No, NVIDIA is their best friend because NVIDIA's gone so ridiculous with their pricing that now AMD looks like the great value. AMD could come in and say, you know what, it's going to be $25,000 for this chip, and companies like, oh, what a steal deal! This is amazing. Only $25,000. Whoa! Oh my gosh! This is amazing. Because AMD is charging something similar for $30,000 or $35,000 or something like that, right? And for a chip that might be $25,000 from NVIDIA, if AMD comes in and charges $15,000, AMD looks like the greatest deal ever, right? So now the market's going to get a whole lot more competitive for NVIDIA moving forward, right? And that does not mean NVIDIA is not going to put up numbers. NVIDIA is still going to put up great numbers in 2026. Great numbers. But they're not going to be great numbers like AMD numbers are great. AMD's growth rates, NVIDIA is going to continue to grow at a bigger absolute number than AMD over the next few years. But NVIDIA's revenue growth rates is not even going to be in the same ballpark, in my opinion, in regards to what AMD is going to put up year after year after the next several years. And remember, a lot of this OpenAI revenue is not going to really start to hit until we're talking about like the back half of 2026, right? So now keep in mind, NVIDIA's numbers are still going to be great over the next year, but in terms of the big numbers, we're going to start to see that like a year from now. And then that doesn't slow down. If anything, that's going to accelerate in 27, 28, right? So there's big numbers coming for a long time for AMD. Hey, I want to thank you so much for watching that clip. I hope you really enjoyed it. What I'm showing you in front of your face right now is 1000xstocks.com. This is such an important website and service to use if you want to research companies, if you want to understand companies on a high level, so you can hopefully get better results in the market. And we know as the years tick on, money compounds. It is so important you research companies, you compare companies, you're listening to conference calls, looking at SEC filings. All that's included into 1000xstocks.com. So to enjoy 1000xstocks.com and to apply for that service, you can go to the description area of this video, or you can go to 1000xstocks.com, whichever you prefer.
And it's also, a huge moment for the AI industry because, when you get to the right down to it, you need more AI compute. I mean, that's where we are today. Compute is the foundation for all of the intelligence we can get from AI. And, we are a compute provider. We have spent years on our roadmap. We've spent years working with OpenAI and the team. And, together now we're embarking on, a massive build out of 6 gigawatts of AI compute. And it's a big deal for us, for our shareholders, for our teams, and for really, the partnership and the overall AI ecosystem.
Greg, I said at the top, the focus is inference. I think that's really important to be specific about what you will do with this capacity. So literally explain that part. And
I swear, I should just put a camera in front of my house and just have a live feed constantly, just so you can see how ridiculous people drive in my neighborhood. They treat it like it's a racetrack. This guy in a BMW, like 20 minutes ago, like I was gonna say something that I didn't say. He was flying around here like it was a flipping flapjack in NASCAR track. This lady in this black G-Wagon, she just goes flying straight across the road, straight to the mailbox, like not even thinking about, like, is there going to be a car coming the other way? Like, let me just dash across here, straight over the mailbox. Like, get your freaking G-Wagon out of the way, lady.
I'm conscious that, in the first instance, the first target is 1 gigawatt and then eventually 6 gigawatts. But what will you use it for?
Well, I think that the world continues to...
Oh, man, that's some Final Destination stuff. Now a car comes the other way and it has 2 massive ladders right on top. Imagine if they went head on. Like, oh, my goodness. It is Halloween month.
Underestimate the amount of demand for AI compute, right? That just, we've seen this explosion of demand with things like ChatGPT. We're at 800 million weekly active users now. This product didn't even exist 3 years ago.
800 million plus weekly active users. It's an impressive number. I mean, it's just insane. Like, there's not many products in this world that have 800 million plus weekly active users. Like, there's only a few that come to mind. Google search comes to mind. Facebook comes to mind. WhatsApp comes to mind. Instagram comes to mind. YouTube comes to mind. Probably you should own Google in Meta stock. There's not that many products that have 800 million plus weekly active users. Like, that's insane.
And we're in a position where we cannot launch features. We cannot launch new products simply because of lack of computational power. And we see these models continuing to get exponentially better. And I think we're just heading to a world where so much of the economy is going to be lifted up and driven by progress in AI. And so we're very much heading to a world by default that I think looks like a compute desert, right? That there's just not enough compute to go around. And so we're trying to build as much as possible, as quickly as possible. So we're starting with 1 gigawatt simply because you got to start somewhere.
Right.
But honestly, we're building as fast as we possibly can and trying to bring as much computational power to bear for the economy and for the world.
Lisa, this is such a big commitment to Instinct in particular. As a customer, does it make OpenAI the largest for that particular product?
Well, this is certainly the largest deployment that we have announced by far. I mean, 6 gigawatts of compute. As Greg said, we're going to start with the first gigawatt in the second half of deployment that we have announced by far. I mean, 6 gigawatts of compute. As Greg said, we're going to start with the first gigawatt in the second half of 2026 on our new next generation MI450 chip. I think the thing to understand is, these types of partners.
I was trying to see, did she say so far, or am I just hearing things?
To Instinct in particular. As a customer, does it make OpenAI the largest for that particular product?
Well, this is certainly the largest deployment that we have announced by far. I mean, 6 gigawatts of compute, as Greg said.
She says by far. Okay. No, I was interested to hear, did she say it was important she said so far or by far? Because if she says so far, then that means maybe they're cooking up something that's even bigger with another company, which I think this is going to be hard to beat, right? Like Meta should be a ridiculously huge customer for AMD. Google should be a ridiculously huge customer for AMD, Microsoft, Amazon, etc., Tesla. But I mean, the big dog of the big dogs, like they got the whale. The whale is OpenAI. There's no debate in that.
To start with the first gigawatt in the second half of 2026 on our new next generation MI450 chip. I think the thing to understand is, these types of partnerships actually take years to really get comfortable with the idea that we're going to go all in together, and this is an all-in partnership in terms of building out the AI compute that OpenAI needs for everything that they're offering to the world. So yes, it's a huge deal, and it also says a lot about how much needs to come together for this entire ecosystem to operate. So we are setting up, certainly there's a lot of engineering work, but our teams are working together on hardware, software. We're ensuring the supply chain, all of those elements are set up and ready to deliver on this massive commitment.
Now, this is massive, folks. We talk about FOMO, fear of missing out, in regards to stocks in the market, right? In like, people got FOMO for this stock. People probably starting to have FOMO around AMD. Just wait till it goes 300 and then they'll really start to have FOMO. But you got to understand there's also FOMO in a business cycle. And what has happened now between OpenAI and AMD is now creating massive FOMO in the business cycle. What do I mean by that? So now if you're Meta, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Tesla, smaller players, go down the list. You're looking, you're like, oh my gosh, like OpenAI is going to buy so many AMD chips over the next several years. Are we even going to be able to get allocations to that? So you start trying to fight for your allocations. So the same exact thing that's happened with NVIDIA over the past few years, where everybody's been bowing down to Jensen, like, please, Jensen, give us chips, give us more chips. Now it's all starting to play out with AMD. And this is just a start. So now Meta, Google, go down the whole list of them, right? All the big spenders. They're going to be trying to get as tight as they possibly can with AMD, get their orders in, make sure they're not forgotten in regards to allocations over the next several years, because they're like, crap, OpenAI alone is going to take so much demand of AMD's, supply out there. It's ridiculous. So these are all things to keep in mind.
Greg, talk us through a little bit about the players that you need to also lean on. This has been years in the making, as you say, with AMD, but what other cloud providers are involved? How are you thinking about this working with an Oracle or others out there?
Yeah, we really think of this as an industry-wide effort. And in general, we think that compute is something that does require the entire supply chain to really wake up and to really to start building much more than people were planning on. I think this starts from energy to try to get far more power to be built. Things like nuclear, I think, are going to be very important to come online. The cloud providers are an important part of this as well. So we're going to be deploying AMD in our own data centers. We'll be deploying them together with cloud providers. We have a deal with Oracle, lots of other cloud providers out there. You can really see that we're very much in we just want compute, as much compute as possible. We think this is important for the economy. We think this is important for the nation. We think this is important for humanity. And so really, we're working with everyone in this whole industry in order to get as much compute power online as quickly as we can.
Lisa, I'm sorry, specifics. Where is this data center going to be? Is it one single site? Is it Oracle that will partner with you on this?
Well, actually, what this really is an announcement of what AMD and OpenAI are going to do together. OpenAI has a lot of partners in terms of where they deploy. I imagine a lot of it will be in cloud service providers. It's really up to OpenAI and Greg and Sam and the team. But the way to think about it is for this amount of compute, it's going to have to be in a lot of different places. I mean, it's a massive amount.
Multiple locations.
Multiple locations. Right? I would imagine, multiple providers to really get this online as fast as possible.
Greg, there is a lot of focus on where OpenAI is going to get the money from to fund all of this. Sam Altman's big...
Just wait for the flip. Check back a year from now and watch the flip.
Picture commitment is well documented, right? And the numbers, to his mind, are in the trillions. But have you specifically thought about debt financing for this relationship with AMD? Have you thought about doing a specific equity raise You are very committed across multiple projects.
Yeah, look,
These are great questions. This is a banger of an interview. Phenomenal question after question.
the way that I would look at this is that AI revenue is growing faster than I think almost any product in history. And that ultimately, at the end of the day, the reason this compute power is so important, is so worthwhile for everyone to build, is because the revenue ultimately will be there. Now, as a company that is trying to move as fast as we can, we look at everything, right? We look at equity, debt, we look at trying to find creative ways of financing all of this. That's been actually a huge focus of us for the past couple of years, is thinking about how can we possibly build the amount of compute that is required in order to really transform this whole economy into an AI-powered economy. And so I think you'll see lots of creative ideas, but fundamentally, I think at the end of the day, it is because we believe that
I'm sorry to jump in and interrupt, and Caro, just forgive me on this one. The condition of AMD issuing the stock to OpenAI requires you to spend money, basically, because you have to deliver that gigawatt of capacity first. Lisa, I have to ask you if you have assurances that OpenAI is good for it.
Well, let me be clear. I mean, this deal is a win for AMD, it's a win for OpenAI, and it's a win for our shareholders. And that's kind of the way we put this together. I have full confidence in, OpenAI, Sam, Greg, Sarah. I mean, this is a massive opportunity for us. Right now, right here, it's about who has the most compute and how fast can we get it online. And we're committing to doing this together. And the fact is, as OpenAI buys chips, that's great for AMD. Our revenue goes up, our earnings go up. We expect that it will also be very, very accretive to our shareholders from day one. And as we do that, we're very happy to have OpenAI as a deep partner, and we win together. So it's like a virtuous, positive cycle in how we build out, this big vision for having all this compute out there.
Right.
And yet we still question, as you were just talking about, Greg, some of the other supply chain elements. You're talking about the need for nuclear, for power. What's really interesting is are you feeling confident enough about the rest of the compute, the supply chain is there? Is this going to be US manufactured from your perspective, or are you looking at also building out internationally with AMD?
Yeah, we've been looking at really all options. Our preference and really the core thing that we try to do is build as much as possible in the U.S. And you can see the commitments that we've made over the past year, $500 billion of investment in the U.S. And that's not stopping. We're continuing to build. I do think that international, it is also going to be important for the world to have compute. I think that compute is going to become this national security strategic resource, and every country is going to need computational power. And so that we are really not limiting our sort of sites in terms of where to build, but we do think it is important that the U.S. leads in this technology, leads in computational power, and we're expanding the supply chain. But you can see that we've really been working with partners across the globe in order to actually meet the demand that we expect to be coming in upcoming years.
Lisa,
the bottom line is, when you're a business and you see massive demand coming, you've got to spend. If I'll give you a perfect example of a company that's now one of the biggest companies in the world, and they had a lot of questions they had to face over the past 20 years about their spend. You know what that is? Amazon. So many questions about the e-commerce spend over the years. I'm talking about the last 20 years, right? The AWS spend. I mean, just so many questions about that. But at the end of the day, Amazon thought hey, we got this massive opportunity in e-commerce. We've got this massive opportunity with AWS that we're going to spend on these businesses aggressively. And now you look at AWS, and AWS would be arguably a $1 trillion plus valuation just as a standalone business. And yeah, they spent a fortune of money to get there, but it was worth it, right? And so same thing with the e-commerce side. It ends up being worth it in the end.
Factoring.
As long as you actually execute, right? Not everybody's going to execute. That's where you got to pick the winners and the losers.